Hi, I'm Susan Nash, and I thought it would be really interesting to take a look at different ways to consider economic problems, and specifically macroeconomic problems, and ones that has to do with the changes in the economy, and I thought I'd look at inflation. So, for fun, I put together something called the Hoarder's Guide to Hedging Against Inflation. When prices rise, some people stockpile books, toys, and nostalgia. So, essentially, let's take a look at this graphic. I tried to use a little bit of humor to explore essentially a serious macroeconomic idea. When people expect inflation, they often change their behavior in ways that go far beyond simply complaining about higher prices. And that's because inflation reduces purchasing power. And that means that the same amount of money buys fewer goods and services over time. We all know that. So as a result, people start looking for ways to preserve value. And they try to do things to avoid future price increases. They stock up on things that they think might become more expensive or even harder to find. Now, sometimes it goes overboard, and so we're going to explore that overboard situation. So in the Hoarder's Guide to Hedging Against Inflation, I'm going to take a look at two case studies. First, we have the Book Hoarder. And why am I talking about these things? I'm selecting things that hit close to home. So we have the Book Hoarder, and then we have the Collectibles Hoarder. So this shows how inflation can shape not only markets, but also household decision-making, emotions, and everyday habits. So let's take a look at the first case study, the Book Hoarder. So this reflects the idea that people may respond to inflation by buying durable goods now rather than waiting until prices rise later. So if someone believes that paper, printing, and shipping costs will continue to increase, then a used book that costs 50 cents today may feel like a bargain compared to what a similar book might cost in the future. The graphic imagines a full room lined with library-style shelves packed with old textbooks, classics, bargain bin treasures, all collected under the logic that books could someday be rarer, more expensive, and even less available in physical form. From a macroeconomic perspective, this is a reactionary behavior tied to expectations. The person is responding today because of what they think prices and availability will look like tomorrow. And keep in mind, they're not considering, textbooks, for example. There could be a certain obsolescence in all this. They're considering that everything is going to be more valuable. And so there's a second layer to the Book Hoarder example. Inflation does not just affect prices, it can intensify concerns about scarcity and substitution. If more reading moves online, printed books may gain a kind of niche value, certain cachet, especially for people who prefer physical media or worry about losing access to materials behind paywalls, subscriptions, disappearing digital platforms. And I've heard people say that often. And that's why the graphic seems to be so effective when it shows old textbooks, classics, and under $1 finds stacked everywhere like treasure. In real life, people really do behave this way. I myself have filled basements with, well, not with canning jars, but I filled bookshelves. People fill basements with canning jars, they buy extra printer ink, or they grab discounted school supplies, quote, for later. And the quirky difference here is that instead of stockpiling toilet paper or canned soup, the hoarder is stockpiling Dickens, chemistry textbooks, and random forgotten paperbacks because Well, good deals are forever. Okay, so let's take a look at the second case study. The second case study is the Collectibles Hoarder. Check out the little raccoon. I love raccoons. I kind of think of them as little hoarders, but maybe they are, maybe they're not. Anyway, it focuses on a different but equally realistic inflation response, buying and holding nostalgic goods that may increase in value because of scarcity, memory, and collector demand. Here, the graphic imagines toys and memorabilia from the 1990s and earlier, Barbie dolls, Pokemon collectibles, Scout uniforms and pins, patches, lunchboxes, dolls, trading cards, and handy leather kits. Do you remember the lunchboxes? I still have my lunchbox from first grade. Anyway, so all those are kind of an informal hedge. The logic is that inflation raises prices generally, but certain older items may rise even faster if they also become desirable collectibles. In economics, this is not a guaranteed investment strategy, but it does reflect how people often respond when they lose confidence in cash. They start putting money into stuff that they think other people will want later. What makes this second case especially memorable is that it captures how inflation can blend with psychology. Nostalgia can create demand in ways that are not purely rational or easy to predict. A box of old patches, a campfire girl's uniform, or a slightly battered leathercraft kit may suddenly feel important because it connects to identity, childhood, or, let's say, a vanished era. In real life, people hunt estate sales for old Pyrex. They spend surprising amounts on first edition Goosebumps, and they argue online about whether unopened Barbie dolls should stay in the box forever. The graphic leans into that quirky behavior is in a fun way, and, well, it doesn't really explore any kind of dark side of feeling stuck in the past or vaguely apocalyptic about the future. But at any rate, today's clutter, in this case, could become tomorrow's valuable archive. And so the idea is that ordinary collectibles become part economics lesson, part time capsule. So taken, these two cases show that inflation often changes behavior long before it changes every price tag in the same way. People react to expected inflation by stockpiling, substituting, hunting, and searching for stores of value outside cash. Some responses are practical, some are emotional, and some are, well, a little eccentric, but all of them reflect the same underlying macroeconomic reality. When people fear that money will buy less in the future, they try to act now. That is the key lesson of the graphic. Inflation does not just push prices upward. It also influences expectations, priorities, and the strange but very human behaviors that emerge when people decide that, well, maybe the path to financial resilience runs through a wall of bookshelves and a closet full of 1990s memorabilia. I don't know why, I just thought of the movie Clueless and the cute outfit. Anyway, that is what I have for today, and I really welcome your thoughts, comments, and your own personal experiences. So thank you.